5 spine-chilling true stories unearthed this summer. Discover the sinister and unexplained. Jenna had no idea the seemingly perfect suburb of Maplewood would turn into a nightmare. Fresh from a divorce that shook her world, she tried to settle into her cozy home with her 2 kids, Alex and Mia. But as summer rolled in, and her shifts at the hospital crept longer into the night, the darkness whispered unsettling secrets. The playful laughter of Alex and Mia felt like echoes of innocence muffled against a backdrop of eerie silence. She couldn't shake the dread creeping in like a cold fog. Small things began to feel off: kitchen drawers left ajar, toys in strange places, a thud in the night that made her heart race. With the glow of the streetlights casting long shadows, Jenna felt isolated, each flickering light seeming to blink with a warning. She had always trusted her neighbors, but questions bubbled to the top after she learned about Mr. Timms. With his charming smile and respected position as a school teacher, he was the last person anyone would suspect. Yet whispers turned to spine-chilling stories, stories that twisted around her mind like brambles. They hinted at a truth so dark, the town swallowed it whole and spit silence back out. It began one restless night when the weight of her fatigue sunk into her bones, and Alex and Mia awoke bathed in sweat, terrified. They talked about a tall figure outside their window, a shadow with eyes that pierced the night. Panic stewed in Jenna's gut. These were her children, innocent and pure. How could they conjure nightmares like this? Was it mere imagination, or were they peering into something sinister? Driven by a strange compulsion, she crept outside the following evening, the air thick with tension. Thunder growled in the distance, echoing her inner turmoil. She gripped a flashlight, the beam cutting through the cloaking darkness, revealing only the rustle of leaves. Then a chill swept over her. She caught a glimpse of a familiar shadow darting between houses. A shiver ran down her spine. Was it Mr. Timms? Before she could catch her breath, thoughts raced in her mind. Was he the monster, or was the real horror the community that chose to ignore the shadows lurking around them? As the thunder cracked loudly, she steeled herself, deciding it was time for a confrontation right now. It had to be done. Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system, and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Jenna knocked on Mr. Timms's door, the thunder grumbling ominously behind her. When he opened the door, the warmth in his smile flickered, revealing a glint of something unsettling beneath. Jenna's heart pounded. There was a weight in the air charged with unspoken truths. "What do you want?" he asked, though his tone wavered, betraying the facade he wore. Her voice trembled. "What is happening in this neighborhood? People are scared." His eyes darkened, and for a moment, something terrifying lurked behind them, a glimpse of the monster within. Jenna's breathing quickened as she took a step back, her instincts screaming at her to flee, yet she held her ground. Meanwhile, her children's whispers echoed in her mind, warning her of all that lurked in the shadows of Maplewood. And as she turned away, she felt the door click shut behind her, leaving more than just a shadow lingering. What had she uncovered, and at what cost? The nightmare was only beginning, and she could feel it drawing closer. The street felt oppressive, as if the very air conspired against her as Jenna hurried back to her home. The laughter of her kids had died down, replaced by an unsettling silence that echoed through the small house. Each step on the front porch creaked underfoot, a twist of fate reminding her that the world had changed. Inside, the dim light from the living room flickered like a weak heartbeat. "Mommy!" Mia's small voice broke through the heavy silence. Jenna found them huddled together on the couch, eyes wide, reflecting fear. "What happened, sweetie?" she asked, forcing a smile despite the dread pooling in her stomach. "They were outside again," Alex whispered, a shiver running through him. The eyes, they were watching. The thought clutched at Jenna's heart. Could Mr. Timms really be involved? Her mind raced. No, it couldn't be. He was just a neighbor, right? But after what she saw in his eyes, the doubt spread through her like poison. "Go to bed. I'll be right here." She tucked them in, heartache clawing at her chest as she heard their tiny gasps for breath. The darkness outside seemed to swell, pressing in on her from all sides. As Jenna sat in the living room, she felt the oppressive weight of eyes on her, just as Alex described. Every creak of the floorboards was a whisper of treachery, every howl of the wind a reminder of her fragile sanity. Suddenly, an unholy crack shattered the stillness, a sharp, splintering sound from the yard. Jenna leaped to her feet, pulse racing, mind flooding with images of the shadowy figure. What if she wasn't just facing a monster in the neighborhood, but the very depths of her own fears? "Stay here," she hissed to the kids, her throat dry and her words choking on terror. She grabbed the flashlight and crept towards the back door, her fingertips tingling as they grazed the cool knob. She pushed it open, and the night engulfed her, thick and heavy, wrapping around her like a shroud. Peering into the darkness, her heart thudded like a drum, drowning out all sound. The backyard felt alive, the rustle of leaves transforming into whispers, teasing her patience. Just then, the flashlight beam swept across the yard, catching a glimpse of something moving near the tree-line. A familiar silhouette flashed between the trees. Mr. Timms. She slapped a hand over her mouth to stifle a scream. He was crouched low, almost blending with the shadows. What was he doing out here? Her fingers trembled around the flashlight as she squinted, trying to understand. But then, he turned his head sharply, as if he felt her gaze. Jenna froze, goosebumps racing up her spine. She could see it now, the glint of reflective eyes watching her right back. Not just Mr. Timms. No, there were more. Figures melted out of the darkness, haunting shapes among the trees. An unholy collection of forms hunched low, glaring at her with eyes wide and empty. "Mommy!" The shriek broke the spell, sending her running back towards the house, heart pounding like a war drum. But as she slammed the door shut, the thud in the night returned, echoing the chaos back in her own mind. They were coming, she could feel it. Scrambling to the living room, Jenna turned to her children. "We need to go now." But she was too late. The whispering wind and thuds had turned into frantic knocks on the windows and doors. The safety of her home was threatened by unseen horrors. But then, through the chaos, a familiar voice cut through the noise, those of her children. "Mommy, look." They pointed toward the living room window, eyes brimming with tears and tremors in their voices. Outside, there was a shadow standing by the streetlight. It was neither human nor beast. Its face twisted through the shadows, and something dark flickered, sizing her up like prey. As dread settled deep within, one thought pierced through the terror clouding her mind. From within the monstrous embrace of darkness, Jenna whispered, "What do you want from us?" With an answer that might turn her world completely upside down lingering in the air, Jenna felt the grip of fear tighten. She was truly trapped now. She had to discover the truth, or she would risk losing herself and her children to the shadows waiting to pounce. What knew the darkness, and when would it strike? Jenna's breath hitched as the shadow outside shifted, almost like it was aware of her desperation. It stood there, flat and featureless, soaked in the night, mocking her attempt to assert control. She could feel the kids trembling beside her, their tiny bodies pressed against her like armor. But they weren't safe, not here. "Stay close," she hissed, feeling her heart pound harder, a steady drumbeat of panic. The creature's form briefly flickered under the streetlight before receding into shadow, swallowed whole by the night. Jenna's instincts screamed for her to run, but where? There was nowhere to escape. The windows rattled with rhythmic knocks now, each thud like a countdown to something dreadful. "Mommy, what is that?" Mia whimpered, her small voice quaking as if it were caught in a storm. "I don't know." Jenna hated that she couldn't give them an answer. It felt like a betrayal. "But we need to." In a moment of instinctual terror, Jenna lunged toward the front window, peering outside. The yard was blurred by darkness, but she could make out shapes converging on her home. Tiny figures, writhing and twisted, cloaked not just in shadow, but in some unknown malice. They were drawing closer, drawn by the pulsing warmth of her fear. "Back away," Jenna commanded, clutching the flashlight like it was a weapon. The beam swung wildly, catching glimpses of the hideous faces, pale and gaunt with features stretched thin. They were children lost, hollow echoes of what they once were. "Don't look, don't look," she yelled again. But it was too late. Alex and Mia had already seen. Their faces contorted in a mix of horror and confusion, and Jenna's heart sank further. "Please, just leave us alone," she shouted into the darkness, her voice breaking. But the shadows paid her no mind. They continued advancing, whispering indistinctly, words that seemed to blend with the wind. An agonizing thud against the front door shook Jenna to her core. It echoed through the house, vibrating the walls like a tightening noose. Time stretched as she forced her thoughts into focus. What did they want? The fear clawed at her, but another thought nagged at the back of her mind. Mr. Timms. Why was he there? What if he knew more? "Mommy." Mia began to cry, her voice cracked with a mix of fear and fatigue. "Sure, it's okay. It's okay." Jenna guided her to the hallway and huddled them close, counting breaths, both her own and her children's. "Mommy, what are we going to do?" Alex's wide eyes glinted with panic. Jenna's mind raced. They needed a plan. They couldn't just sit here and wait. There had to be a way out. But an icy wave of dread washed over her as she turned back to face the front door. The relentless pounding resumed, louder, more urgent. They were not here to let her go. They were here to collect. "Okay, on 3, she started, fighting to keep her voice steady. "We run to the back door." "Got it." The children nodded, eyes wide with trepidation. 1, 2. An unnatural howl sliced through the air, winding its way around the house like a serpent. It was inhuman, laced with sorrow and rage. 3. They bolted. Jenna reached the back door just as the frames splintered under the weight of something horrendous. She threw the door open and the cold air tore into her, an icy embrace. The yard was a morass of shadows, but ahead a flicker of light in her neighbor's backyard. Hope surged. "Run!" Jenna shrieked, pushing forward, her children in tow as they dashed across the threshold. But the howl morphed into a deafening roar, drowning out her commands. Her heart raced as she heard the guttural sounds of the shadows spilling forth behind them. They were hot on their heels, and Jenna could practically feel their breath, icy and foul against her neck. "Faster," she urged. Then she heard it, the unmistakable sound of something shattering behind them. A scream tore from Mia's lips, echoing around her like the prelude to disaster. In that instant, Jenna knew they weren't just escaping a threat, they were running from a truth that would either destroy them or save them. What awaited them in the flickering light of their neighbor's yard? Would it be a sanctuary or a new nightmare? Jenna sprinted through the darkened yard, the chilly air wrapping around her like a shroud. Every corner of her mind screamed at her to look back, to see if her children were still behind her, if the shadows had drawn closer. But she shoved the urge down, forcing her feet to move faster, toward the flickering light that danced like a beacon in the suffocating darkness. "Mia, Alex," she gasped, glancing over her shoulder, praying her voice would carry over the chaos. Their small forms trailed behind her, arms flailing as they struggled to keep pace. Just a few more steps, then the world erupted around her. The crashing sound of glass shattering echoed through the night, a discordant symphony mixed with the howling wails of those pursuing them. The shadows seemed to pulse as if invigorated by their fear, rushing at them with a hunger that filled the air with dread. "Mommy!" Mia's high-pitched scream rang out. Panic sliced through Jenna's heart. "Keep running," Jenna urged, pushing them forward. "We can't stop." They reached the edge of their neighbor's yard, where a small shed stood, silhouetted against the light spilling from a nearby window. It loomed like an ancient guardian, as if it could offer some protection from the horrors creeping ever closer. Without thinking, she dropped to her knees, shoving the wooden door open. "Get inside," she shouted, ushering Alex and Mia in before following them, slamming the door shut behind her. The shed smelled of damp wood and rust, but it was a sanctuary, even for just a moment. Jenna crouched low, her heart hammering as she pressed her ear against the door. The horrifying sounds still echoed beyond, mingled with whispers she couldn't quite understand. The children huddled close, trembling as they exchanged frightened glances, seeking the comfort of each other's presence. "Mom, what was that?" Alex's voice quivered, his small hands wrapped tightly around Mia's. "I don't know, but we're safe here for now." Jenna's own voice trembled as she tried to convince them both. A shiver of realization ran down her spine. The door wouldn't hold forever. The shadows would be relentless, and she knew instinctively that they wouldn't simply go away. Mia tugged at her sleeve, fear etched on her innocent face. "Are they going to get us, Mommy?" No, no, they won tea. I promise, Jenna said, though the uncertainty gnawed at her insides. She leaned close, forcing a calm tone as she whispered, "We need to be quiet. We can't let them know we're here." The whispers beyond grew louder, merging into one dreadful word that echoed chillingly in her mind. Mommy, it resonated with sorrow, an echo of the past, only a shade away from that of her own children's voices. Suddenly, the door rattled violently, sending both children into her arms, their eyes wide with terror. She pressed her back against the wall, praying it would hold. The shadows outside converged, their ghostly forms skimming across the windows. "Mommy," they called again, this time not in fear, but with an unnatural lure, as though promising something she felt could unearth the memories she worked so desperately to protect. With gritted teeth, Jenna strained to hold the door, her muscles shaking under the pressure. The voice was transforming, twisting, becoming a deeper tone of sound that stirred something within her. It was familiar. "Mommy, let us in." Her heart raced as dread coiled around her. "Stay back," she screamed, as the hand of one shadow pressed against the glass, nose flat and skeletal. The face was indistinct yet hauntingly recognizable. No, it couldn't be. The memories flooded back, choppy images of laughter, a picnic in the sun, summer breezes on their cheeks. Then she saw at the flicker of a charming smile that quickly morphed into something sinister. "Help us," the shadows crooned, their whispers a cacophony of lost promises and oh, not this. They want something. Something twisted. But what? And what would happen if they gave in? As the shouting outside reached a fever pitch and the walls seemed ready to crumble, Jenna understood this was only the beginning. What truth did those shadows hold? What sacrifice was demanded in exchange for their freedom? With shaking hands, she made a decision that would either save them or seal their fate, and time was running out. The door shook violently again, splintering with groaning at the pressure. Jenna's heart raced, each boom a reminder of their fragile sanctuary. Fear gripped her throat like a vice as she glanced at Mia and Alex, their wide eyes reflecting pure terror. "Stay close," she whispered fiercely, her breath hitching. But inside, she questioned how long this little shed would hold back the darkness that hungered for them. The whispers morphed, intertwining with her own memories, the sound of laughter from summer days long past, a chilling twist that sent shivers down her spine. "Mommy," they called, and for a split second, she closed her eyes, willing the images away. Memories of warmth and love turned twisted, sinister. With each pulse of rage against the door, Jenna felt more trapped, the black mass of shadow creeping higher up the windows. Sweat trickled down her back, cold against her skin. She clenched her fists, fighting the impulse to rush out, to confront what was out there. Mia shuddered, burying her face into Jenna's side. "Mommy, what if they take us too?" "Shoo." Jenna hushed, her words harsh but softening as she stroked Mia's hair. "I won't let that happen." But the promise felt like tattered silk against the storm raging outside. The shadows whispered secrets, some she could almost make sense of, while others seemed to carry the pain of lost souls. "Open the door." "Mommy," it was her own voice, layered with desperation and despair, echoing back through time. "Let us come home." The sinister undertone cut through her like glass, striking at the core of her being. In a fevered moment of clarity, Jenna remembered stories her mother told her, tales of darkness that would take those who went too far. She had laughed them off, never believing the horror could be real. Now the stories gnawed at her sanity, clawing to the surface of her mind. She gritted her teeth as she felt a heavy thump against the door. Outside, the shadows transformed, morphing into ghastly figures each time her gaze flickered away. Their promises haunted her, echoing from every crack of the shed's structure. "We miss you, Mommy." "Silence," she screamed, the noise getting louder, drowning out her own thoughts. The door splintered again, one final desperate breath before the door swung open. Splintering wood erupted, an inky cloud of darkness poured in, whispering enticingly. Jenna instinctively shielded her children, urgency coursing through her veins. "Go. Run," she screamed, pushing Mia and Alex toward the rear wall. But the shadows danced around them, eagerly sipping at the hopes and dreams she had fought so long to protect. "Mommy," they whispered, wrapping around her, their coldness sapping her strength. Jenna closed her eyes, feeling their fingertips brush against her skin, drawing closer, offering a fate veiled in darkness. She couldn't let them take her children. Not like this. Jenna's eyes snapped open. There was no escape without a fight. She grabbed an old rusty spade from the floor, hefting it above her head, heart pounding in time with the chaos. Get back! With a surge of defiance, she lunged toward the shadows, striking out fiercely. But as the spade connected with the darkness, a shocking freezing grip latched onto her wrist. A voice shrieked through the cacophony, "You can't stop us!" The walls shook. The shadows pulled back, shrieking in agony only to swarm in again, desperate and unyielding. The darkness clawed at her mind, each whisper a siren call, dragging her toward a truth she could almost grasp. But what truth? What darkness lay behind those whispers? "Mommy!" Mia squealed, clutching Alex closer, their frightened cries echoing over Jenna's frantic breathing. She could feel them slipping her grip on hope waning. In that moment, she realized the shadows wouldn't stop until they got what they wanted. And she was running out of time. "Hold on, kids. Trust me," Jenna yelled above the storm, grinding her teeth against the weight of fear. But as she prepared to swing again, she saw something shift in the shadows, a glint of recognition. "Mommy, are we really lost?" As the darkness rippled, she felt a familiar touch creeping back, nice like a memory but twisted. The walls seemed to close in further, shadows swimming like a tide of ink. What had she awakened? What if their pleas bore a deeper truth than she dared to imagine? And suddenly, it clicked. This wasn't just a fight for survival. It was a reckoning with the past. Jenna drew a shaky breath, realizing she might need to confront not just the darkness outside, but whatever it was that lay dormant within her. The shadows were hungry, but were they truly the enemy? Or had they been calling her home all along? With one last look at her children, Jenna steeled herself for what came next, one final confrontation before everything would change forever. Would she be strong enough to face the truth? And what would happen when the veil was finally lifted? Jenna's heart thundered in her chest, the sound drowning out the frantic whispers of the shadows. Time slowed as she clutched the rusty spade, her grip almost slipping against the creeping cold. She could feel the shadows breathing, wrapping tighter around her like a suffocating fog. "Mommy, we can't breathe," Alex whimpered, his small body trembling against her. "Just hold on," she shouted, desperation coloring her voice. The shadows had formed a wall, thick and unrelenting, pressing closer, feeding off her fear. She steeled herself, willing adrenaline to spark her fight or flight instinct back to life. "Mommy, are we really lost?" Mia's voice echoed again, and each word twisted something deep inside Jenna. Those words hung in the air, heavy with regret and memories too painful to revisit. "You have to let us," in the shadows insisted, whispering sweetly, almost tenderly, as if they wanted to embrace her rather than consume her. Their father's voice, kinder than she remembered, drifted through her mind. "Sometimes, you just have to let go, Jenna." A tear slipped down her cheek. She fought the urge to succumb, but doubt crept in like a thief in the night, scrabbling at her resolve. What if letting go meant liberation? But no, there was no chance to entertain such notions. The darkness surged forward, and the air grew heavy and rancid, thick as molasses. She swung the spade wildly, desperate not just for survival, but for control. The cold grip around her wrist loosened, just for a moment, but 1,000 chilling fingers clawed at her waist. "Mom!" Mia screamed, her voice piercing the thick atmosphere. Jenna turned, eyes wide with horror, as Alex's small form began to lift off the ground, a hollow look spreading across his features like ink spilling from a well. Not him. Panic seized her. She lunged forward, adrenaline coursing through her veins, yanking him back as the shadows shrieked in fury. "Let him go?" Jenna roared, feeling the tears spill down her face. And then she felt it. The cold began to seep into her bones, slowing time, turning her world gray. She felt as if she were being pulled into a whirlpool of despair, being siphoned of her strength. "Mommy, please," Mia sobbed, her small hands grasping Jenna's arm. Jenna's mind raced with spiraling thoughts, her mother's tales of darkness flooding in, snatching at her sanity. The echoes of the past swirled, a broken family, fragments she never wanted to face. Memories danced within the shadows. She recoiled, the memories tearing at her just as viciously as the very darkness before her. Look within. The shadows hissed, the voices now a cacophony, a chorus of long-buried secrets desperate to be heard. Find us, save us. With renewed vigor, Jenna fought back, battling the urge to give in to the madness that threatened to engulf her. She met the gaze of the looming chaos, determination igniting like a match against wind. You will not take my children. Finding strength she didn't know she had, she swung the spade down viciously. The darkness screamed as the edge of metal met the swirling blackness. A fissure opened in the mass, revealing a bright shard of light beyond. It pulsed like a heartbeat, strong, vibrant. "Mommy, please." Alex cried again, and Jenna's resolve seared hotter. If she could break the hold, she had to reach that light. It felt like hope, a glimmer in the suffocating despair. With all her might, she pushed through the darkness, dragging her children toward the opening. But suddenly, the shadows roared, reverberating with rage. "You can never leave. You are ours. Join us." The words spilled with a weight that pressed down on her chest. Jenna hesitated, fear worming back into her mind. What if they were right? What if the darkness promised peace, but peace was a lie? This wasn't how it had to end. Brave faces of her children ignited her spirit, lighting the way forward. "Trust me," she shouted, her voice fighting against the shrieking chaos. She took Mia's hand tight, Alex's other hand pulling him along. They surged toward the opening in the shadows, heart racing to the pot of darkness. Closed in, she felt the light pull away, flickering like a candle about to be snuffed out. Would it last? Would they escape? The shadows growled menacingly as they reached the edge of the light. Jenna could feel it, a wave of warmth and love, that welcoming moment. Would it lift them into safety or consume them forever? And just as they reached for the light, a blinding flash filled the shed, freezing terror in its wake. "Mommy," Mia whimpered. What Jenna began, but the ground shook violently beneath them. The light flickered again, threatening to fade, and she clung to her children, mind racing, an end or a beginning. As shadows lurked, waiting for their chance, Jenna pushed ahead. She didn't have the answer, but she had to fight. What lay ahead? Would the light save them, or would it reveal something much darker? And what of the whispers from the shadows? One final push beckoned, but could she find the answer before it was too late? The blinding light became a dizzying maelstrom, swirling like a storm that both beckoned and threatened. Jenna screamed as the ground beneath her shifted violently, the shadows coiling like serpents around her ankles, pulling her back into their suffocating embrace. "Hold on," she urged, almost a prayer, tightening her grip around Mia and Alex's frail fingers. But their tiny hands felt like they were slipping away, like water through her palms. The shadows whispered again, tauntingly sweet, "Join us, let go," and in the heart of that oppressive blackness, part of Jenna wanted to surrender. The promises of peace seemed so near, their allure glimmering like diamonds in the dark. Her mind flashed to moments of family dinners and soft bedtime stories, but they were quickly overlaid with shadows that twisted those memories into semblances of nightmares. "Mommy," Alex gasped, his voice laced with pure terror, anchoring her back to the urgency at hand. No, she couldn't let them go. No matter the pain or the haunting memories. Jenna refocused on the light, its intensity wavering like a breath in cold air. It was a refuge, a lifeline amidst despair, and she surged forward, dragging her children along, realizing that they were the only anchors preventing her from being swallowed whole. With a guttural roar, the shadows lunged, clawing at her back, threatening to pull her out of the light's reach. She could feel them swirling around her, scratching at her skin, whispering her weaknesses, her guilt, her fears, her failures as a mother. Yet with every scream, every shudder, her determination only flared brighter. "Stay with me," Jenna cried, pushing against the creeping dread, forcing herself to take a step into the piercing luminescence. But then, a dark tendril shot out, coiling tightly around Alex's ankle. "No." Jenna jerked backward, her heart racing as she stumbled. The spine-tingling panic ripped through her once more, and she felt the cold sweat beating at her temple, heart pounding like a hammer against iron. "Alex!" she screamed, lunging forward. She could see his terrified face, eyes wide with horror. Every second felt like eternity as the darkness claimed more of him. "I want to let you go." With surprising strength, Alex reached for Mia, who scrambled forward, eyes glassy with unshed tears and fright, her small body shaking. "Mommy, help him!" Mia cried, her voice tearing through Jenna's heart. But the shadows were relentless, their grasp tightening like a noose. Just when it seemed hopeless, Jenna formed a desperate plan, her eyes fixed on the flickering light. "Hold on to each other," she shouted. "We pull together." In a swift motion, her arms outstretched as she once more swung the spade not at the darkness, but at the bond holding them together. With one fierce motion, she declared, "On three. 1, 2, 3. They pulled together, yanking against the darkness as Jenna drove the spade forward, cleaving a path through the opaqueness. In a blinding explosion, the darkness shrieked. It was a sound that reverberated through the very air, shattering the stillness and blinding Jenna as the shadows reeled back. The light surged like a crashing wave, swallowing the darkness around them, illuminating the shed's interior in an otherworldly glow. But in that instant of triumph, Jenna's heart sank. The light began to warp, pulsating erratically, fading and reappearing at intervals, like a dying flame. Something split the air next to crack like thunder, shaking her heart through her chest. "And Mommy." Mia's voice trembled, pulling Jenna back from the brink of a panic. The air grew thick, charged with a terrible energy. Suddenly, something shifted behind her, the shadows regrouping, fanged whispers rising in intensity. "You can't escape," Jenna's mind raced, the light flickering like a dying star, threatening to collapse and drag them back into the darkness. She knew the past wouldn't stay buried. The shadows had awakened that which had lain dormant, ready to strike. "Hold on," she whispered, digging her nails into their hands, as if she could manifest pure will into a shield. "We'll fight together." What would emerge from the shattering of the light? Would darkness claim them? Or was this an awakening of something else, something far worse? A figure shifted at the periphery of the light, horrifyingly familiar. "Mommy, what is happening?" Fear echoed in Mia's voice, but Jenna could barely breathe, her blood turning to ice. Was this the end of their struggle, or just the beginning? The air crackled with an electric tension as Jenna's heart thundered in her chest. She squeezed her children's hands tighter, fear coursing through her veins. The figure standing within the dim glow was both familiar and grotesque, its features twisted, echoing the haunting memories that the shadows had crafted. "And Mommy." Mia whimpered again, her voice barely above a whisper, trembling like a leaf caught in a storm. Jenna turned, her breath hitching. The figure lurked at the edge of the light, a silhouette clouded in darkness, yet starkly tactile. It hovered there, a twisted mirror of the past, the ghost of all the times she had failed to protect them. The face was a merge of innocent and monstrous, her own reflection distorted by pain and regret. "Leave us alone," Jenna screamed, her voice breaking. The shadows pushed closer, whispering maddening reassurances, nesting in her fears. "You're safe here, you can rest now, Mommy. Don't listen," Alex shouted, his eyes darting wildly. "Fight them." Jenna pressed back, her voice raw but steady. "They want to take you away just like they always wanted me." The shadows surged, claws of darkness clawing at her skin, threatening to shred her hope. "I'll protect you. I'll always protect you." Yet even as she said it, questions clawed at her, questions she never wanted to pine over. What if her protection was not enough? What if the very thing she loved was the very thing that could undo her? In that spiraling panic, she swung the spade again, aimed not only at the dark tendrils binding them, but at her own fears, scattering jagged memories into the air. The light pulsed back, strong and defiant. "Together," she shouted, remembering how the strength of their bond was the only thing countering the grip of fear. But the figure seemed to glow brighter, drawing forth a wave of memories that lashed against her mind like a sudden storm. Jenna's own face split open in the luminescence, each glow a lost moment, every spark a hard truth. She saw her failures, of leaving Mia for a single night, of ignoring Alex's cries for more attention. "How could you?" the figure lamented. "Leave me." "No," Jenna shouted. "I want to let you take me back." But as she screamed, the darkness enveloped her, closing in tight. Shadows pressed against her body, crushing down, and within that pressure, Suffocating dread rose like icy water filling her lungs. The light flickered again, weaker this time, its pulse stuttering like a dying heartbeat, dragging her towards shadows that beckoned with terrible, familiar hands. "Mommy, don't go!" Both Mia and Alex cried out, their tiny forms jostling against the pull of darkness, their innocence a defiance against the overwhelming terror. In that moment, Jenna felt a spark ignite within. What was at stake wasn't just her family's safety. It was every moment that led her here. Every smile, every laugh, they were all tethered to this fight. With every ounce of strength, she roared, "Stay with me. Don't let go." And just like that, something cracked within her. The bond between them ignited into a fiery blaze, a luminous force that shot through the dark, pushing back against the consuming shadows with a blinding brilliance. But the figure laughed, its voice a cold whisper. "You can't escape the past," a scream echoed, high and haunting, as Jenna felt the shadows lashing out, striking her deeply. It intertwined with her memories, anchoring her to failures that pierced like cold daggers. But all she could think of was her children. They had to survive. "Fight," she urged, their voices merging into a fierce hymn against the darkness. "Don't stop. Fight." Yet the figure loomed closer, its intentions darker than ever. The shadows swelled, dark crescendos raging against the light. And just as Jenna's heart surged with renewed hope, something changed. Her grip on her children faltered, the penetrating dark opening a chasm that pulled at them. Something was coming, something new. The energy shifted, like the calm before a storm, an anticipation that felt deadly. "Mommy, please." Their voices echoed, pulling away like wisps of smoke. She could feel it tightening, the darkness nearly tangible. What was awakening? What would it reveal in the next moment? As the shadows swirled and tightened their grip, Jenna's breath quickened, realization seeping through her like ice. Reality warped, and she barely held on to her children. Was this the end of their battle, or the beginning of something much, much worse? The darkness twisted around them, a suffocating blanket that clung to Jenna's skin and pulled at her breath. She could feel its cold fingers, grasping and clawing, trying to pry her away from her children. The light she had summoned flickered and dimmed, and panic surged through her veins like fire. "Don't let go," she gasped, squeezing her children's small hands even tighter, but it felt as if they were slipping away, like sand through her fingers. And Mommy Mia's voice trembled, cracking under the weight of fear. She was turning pale, her eyes wide and searching, so full of trust but clouded with terror. "Mom, something is coming," Alex warned, his voice tight, barely above a whisper. A chill raced through Jenna's heart at his words, as she felt the ground beneath them shift. It wasn't just shadows or whispers anymore. It felt heavier, alive, as if the darkness had drawn breath of its own. "No, we can't give in," Jenna shouted, her voice nearly breaking with urgency. She forced her gaze back to the figure, now a seething mass of shadow and twisted form. Its eyes held an unsettling glow, a reflection of every lost moment in her life. "You want to take them. You can't." But the figure began to morph. Shadows peeled away to reveal faces from her past, each one a painful reminder of her failures, a friend lost, a parent's disappointment, a moment of weakness, all woven into the creature's grotesque form. Their mouths opened in silent screams, and Jenna staggered, a chill crawling down her spine. She felt their weight pressing down, each regret gnawing at her soul. The darkness coiled tighter, pulling her children away, swaths of cold creeping into their very essence. "No," Jenna howled, but her voice seemed to drown in the thick haze around her. The shadows whispered promises, each syllable dripping with malice. "Join us, join the everlasting slumber." The ground roared to life beneath them. A tremor shook the hollow space where they stood, as if the very fabric of reality was ripping apart. Jenna's heart raced. She had to stay focused. She had to keep fighting. "We will not succumb," she screamed, and still, the shadows persisted, a storm of rasping silhouettes pressing in from all sides. "And Mommy, we can't," Mia cried, her young voice cracking. The shadows began to pull her tiny frame toward the gaping maw in the darkness. Panic clawed at Jenna's throat. "I love you," she shouted, pouring all her energy into those words, letting them spill out like an anchor in the abyss. I love both of you. Remember that. You are my everything. A blinding pain flared in her chest, as if her very heart were now suffused with radiant fire. The energy surged, and just for a moment, she felt their tiny hands squeeze back. Jenna opened her eyes wide, hope igniting the darkness. But then, the shadows recoiled, screeching in a cacophony of fury, and the figure twisted violently, its many faces contorting in rage. You think love can save you? It hissed, its voice dripping venom. You cannot escape your sins. With that, the darkness erupted, swirling, forming a tempest that ripped through her consciousness. Memories rushed back, each like shards of glass suicides, accidents, betrayals, and every single grievance she had buried deep began flooding her mind. As she fought against the tide of pain, a low growl reverberated through the air, turning her blood to ice. It rose from the depths of the shadows, sounding less like a mere warning and more like a beckoning howl. Jenna locked eyes with her children, pleading with them silently to hold on tight. And just then, a new figure emerged from the depths of the darkness, pushing through the writhing mass, a silhouette massive, ominous, exuding a sense of force that made the shadows quiver. What was this? What terror awaited them now? Jenna's breath caught in her throat. What on earth had she summoned? Would it prove to be their salvation, or their ultimate doom? As the new shadow towered and approached, the air grew thick with despair and anxiety. She realized, with a jolt, she might have unwittingly unleashed something far worse. What did it want, and what would it mean for them all? Jenna's heart raced as the imposing figure broke through the shadows, a dread wrapped around her like a vice. It towered, a monument of darkness that twisted and spun, clamoring for attention. Her pulse echoed in her ears like a war drum, drowning out the whispers that beckoned her. "Mommy, who is that?" Mia's voice trembled, laced with fear. Alex gripped her hand tighter, as if their small combined strength could shield them from the storm closing in. Jenna stared at the looming figure, realizing this was not just another shadow, but an embodiment of everything she had tried to escape. Her guilt, her failures, the past that haunted her. "You're not real," she whispered defiantly, clenching the rusty spade as she steeled herself against the clamor. "Not real?" The figure roared, its voice a cacophony that sliced through her thoughts. "I am the echoes of your choices, the weight of your abandonment. You have called me forth, and now you must face the cost of your neglect." Panic gripped her heart. Memories swirled around. Images of lost birthdays and forgotten promises stabbed at her like icy daggers. Each guilt-ridden memory danced before her, taunting her. "But I'm here now," Jenna said, forcing confidence into her voice. "I'm not abandoning my children. Not again." The children clung to her, their small bodies trembling, sending waves of warmth against the onslaught of cold despair. She realized something vital. This darkness may have come from her past, but it would not dictate their future. "Get back," she shouted, brandishing the spade. "You want to take them." With a surge of will, she swung at the towering mass, and for the first time she felt it give way. "Mommy, please," Alex cried out, giving a heroic tug against the oppressive force. "Hold on," she shouted through clenched teeth, adrenaline pumping through her veins. The light's flicker sparked confidence. They only needed to push forward. As the figure writhed violently, Jenna pushed through the memories, forcing her way into her heart's core. "You will not take my children. I forgive myself for being human. I embrace my past, but I will not let it rule me." She screamed those words, pouring every ounce of emotion into them. The shadows recoiled in an explosion of darkness, shrieks filling the air as she broke free. The light behind her blazed ever brighter, wrapping them in a golden embrace. "And Mommy?" Mia's trembling tone broke through her determination. "I'm here," Jenna replied, voice unwavering. "Focus on my voice. Keep holding tight." She felt warmth swell around them as she surged toward the light, the children bolstering her with every step. "Let us go home," she urged, a flicker of hope igniting within her heart. And with one final, mighty push, they broke through the haze, stumbling into a vast light that enveloped them in warmth. Jenna gasped as the shadows recoiled, howling bitterly, then vanished into thin air. They tumbled in a heap as reality surged back in, the soft grass beneath their feet and the gentle light of the sun washing over them. bright and welcoming. The air smelled fresh and clean. Tears rolled down her cheeks, a mix of relief and disbelief flooding her soul. "Mommy!" The kids squeaked, wrapping their arms around her. Jenna hugged them tightly, their warmth coursing through her like a balm. "I'm so sorry," she whispered, feeling the weight of everything lift from her shoulders. She didn't just save them. She reclaimed her spirit. "I promise I will never let you go again." As they huddled together, laughter bubbled up, infectious and alive. Jenna felt whole for the first time in ages. The shadows were gone. They had faced their fears, confronted the darkest parts of herself, and emerged stronger. Maplewood was still there, its veil lifted a little, revealing both fragility and enduring strength. In that moment, Jenna knew she would always guard the light and draw on love instead of fear. She looked down at her children, their eyes sparkling with wonder and trust. The night had been a nightmare, but dawn had come, and they would carry it with them. A new chapter unfolded brightly before them, gleaming with promise. Together, they could conquer anything. But as the sun began to set on Maplewood, Jenna couldn't shake the feeling that shadows might linger somewhere in the distance, waiting for a moment of weakness. However, she was ready to face it all, armed with love. As they embraced the warmth of the evening sun, a breeze rustled through the trees, whispering endless possibilities. Jenna beamed at her children. "Let us go make some memories together." With her heart aglow, they ventured toward their home, uncertain of the future but ready to embrace it, hand in hand. And remember, if you found this tale gripping, you need to subscribe now. Don't wait for even one more second. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm and show your support. Flood the comments section with your amazing reactions and theories about Jenna's journey. And make sure you share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. We're counting on you.